Good afternoon, my name is Sophie.
And I'm Will. Our top stories today.
Salford Royal Hospital, in partnership with the charity Pint, are campaigning to raise awareness for intestinal failure.
Manchester's annual Dragon Festival took place this week to welcome in the Year of the Snake.
Here all this long way to simply take part in this parade and to celebrate with all people from my country, and we share the same interest for traditional clothes.
The People's History Museum in Manchester has relaunched their banner exhibition to showcase the history of campaigning.
The University of Salford's female students have been celebrating National Girls and Women's Sports Day.
Most people have heard of liver and kidney failure, but very few have heard of intestinal failure, a condition that can affect patients in both the short and long term.
Salford Royal Hospital, in partnership with the charity Pint, are trying to spread awareness for the condition and recently held an event called 1F to do this.
Here's our reporter Rhys Hanson, who has been at Salford Royal.
Imagine replacing dinner time with a 12-hour overnight IV infusion in order to get the nutrition you need to survive. For those with intestinal failure, this is a reality, one which must be handled with high levels of care. But what actually is intestinal failure?
So intestinal failure is when there is an interruption to your digestive system. Most of your nutrition is absorbed within your small intestine. If that isn't working for one reason, you're going to have intestinal failure. There can be different reasons why somebody may have intestinal failure. It could be a loss of blood supply to the intestine. It could be that the lining of the intestine doesn't work as it should. It could be that there's complex Crohn's, where a patient has had numerous parts of their small intestine removed due to surgery. The reason we want to talk about intestinal failure and spread awareness is because it's important that across the different hospitals, the different healthcare centres, that we're talking about this condition in order to help people receive an earlier diagnosis, in order to have better care and better outcomes for patients with this condition.
Some who come here to Salford's intestinal failure unit are here because it really is the last chance to save their life. But the ward does so much more than that, helping and training people so that they can go home and have the highest quality of life possible outside of the hospital. To find out about parental home nutrition, I spoke to Carolyn, who has been doing it for over 40 years. She told me her story.
Reaching the diagnosis of intestinal failure was a very long journey for me. I started out with lots of bowel problems, distended stomach, sickness, diarrhoea, not being able to tolerate food and drink, losing weight, becoming very fatigued, unable to go to school. Life in general was a struggle, but there was no explanation. I was a young child. Effectively, I felt blamed for being ill and I needed to do something about it. So once I got the parenteral nutrition started and I'd received my diagnosis of intestinal failure, things started to make sense and I could see light at the end of the tunnel.
Carolyn is also on the executive committee for Pint, having also worked with them for over 40 years.
Pint was set up as a support group to try and help people who are embarking on this journey. We've been running for over 40 years now, and this was a very new kind of treatment. The first 1F day was really important. It starts the beginning of an ongoing campaign. We really need to raise awareness of the forgotten organ failure. Nobody understands intestinal failure, and it's really crucial because if people don't get nutrition and hydration, then they're going to become really unwell. Raising awareness comes in lots of different guises, so you can follow the charities, follow the hospitals, follow the campaign for 1F, and actually then just educate yourself and recognise a really important organ failure.
Rhys Hanson, Quays News.
This week, the annual Dragon Parade took place in Manchester as the city welcomed the Year of the Snake for Chinese New Year. The festival saw thousands of people standing to watch the parade of traditional dances, music and stunts, before seeing the March of the Dragon led by people from all over the world.
The parade ended in Chinatown, where crowds were met with funfair rides and lots of choice of food. Manchester is now officially into the year of the snake, and our reporter Dan Walters went down to see how it went.
This week, a whole new year has started for a large community in Manchester. Snake celebrations took place in the city centre, with parades, dancing and gift-giving. So what is the message behind the popularity of this festival?
This is a Chinese character and it means good luck. And it's like here what is involved is not just a Chinese character, but it also involves the image of snake, which is a symbolic animal in this year.
Thousands of families gathered along the streets to wait for the arrival of the dragon, who is introduced by people from all kinds of backgrounds, with routines and stunts in the build-up.
That's the diversity that I like, yeah, because like the people who moving the dragons, that's the white people, black color people, and also Chinese. Not only the festival for Chinese. So this is amazing things.
Now the calendar year has really begun by welcoming the Year of the Snake. Manchester has been nicely decorated for the occasion, with hundreds of lanterns and lots of statues. But what does the snake mean to you?
I think it's more of a cultural thing and a thing to bring people together, more so than actually knowing the details of what each thing means.
Last year was actually my year, so this round for me it's like it means the end of last year, and because in the last year I do have some bad luck, so I hope that this year things can change and we can move on.
For me, this means kind of witty, golden snake things in Chinese culture.
Despite the Year of the Dragon seemingly being the most popular animal amongst the few in a Chinese New Year calendar, this year it's the Year of the Snake, which ultimately means it's time for renewal, mystery and intelligence.
People travelled miles this week to celebrate their festival with their family and friends, and it's clear that Manchester has made them feel right at home.
I'm so happy as a Chinese. It's a good festival for us, and I'm so happy that there are so many British people, they also enjoy this brilliant festival.
So Manchester is now properly into the year of renewal. After its annual parade, let's see what this year brings for such a diverse culture. Dan Walters, Quays News, Chinatown.
Well, it's nice to see that so many people celebrate the Chinese New Year.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think I'll have to go down next year. The dragon might scare me off though.
I think you'll be all right, Will. I'm 99% sure they're not real.
99%. Anyway, next, the 2025 banner exhibition has opened its doors to the public at the People's History Museum, where it will make a colourful impact until the 29th of December. The banners are a visual representation of the many stories that are explored at the National Museum of Democracy.
The banners being brought together create a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when ordinary people stand together for ideas worth fighting for.
Our reporter Molly Horton visited the exhibition to find out more about this annual event.
The 2025 banner exhibition at the People's History Museum opened its doors to the public on the 18th of January. The exhibition is open to the public for free and reflects on significant campaigns varying through time and topic, such as highlighting homelessness in the 1940s to today's continuing fight for disabled people's rights, alongside representations of trade unions of the past and present. I spoke to Mark Wilson, the exhibition officer at the People's History Museum, who told me more about this annual event.
It's something that we do on an annual basis, so we change over our banners each year, and it's kind of so we can share some of our huge collection of protests and trade union banners, which is probably among the largest probably in the world,
With all the banners brought together, they are a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when ordinary people stand together for ideas worth fighting for.
We've got a brilliant Manchester Deaf Triangle banner which we loaned for the exhibition this year, which is an LGBT deaf group that kind of started in Manchester. So that's one of my personal favourites in the exhibition. but there's so many vivid and beautiful banners in it. It is hard just to pick one, really.
The 2025 banner exhibition has opened up here again at the People's History Museum in Manchester, and it will be making a colourful impact until the 29th of December 2025. The People's History Museum is making a stand against democracy with its annual exhibition. Alistair Warner is the outreach coordinator for the Quays Workers Coalition, and he spoke to me about Mark Ashton, who created the Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners banner.
You know, Mark Ashton's role within the kind of miners, within the miners' dispute, and within the kind of trade union movement in general, really kind of came to the prominence in 2014 as a result of the film Pride.
The People's History Museum encourages its visitors to be empowered by the past to make change for the future. Molly Horton, Quays News.
Yesterday was National Girls and Women in Sports Day, which celebrates the achievements of all women in sports and acknowledges the need for gender equity in sport.
Our reporter, Elena Towell, spoke to some of Salford University's own female athletes about the importance of the day.
National Girls and Women in Sports Day aims to inspire girls and women to play sports, be active and realise their full power. The University of Salford is home to many student athletes who embody this message. Lydia Johnstone is a fashion, image making and styling student who joined the Volleyball Society when she began university. She spoke about the importance of the day.
Because it isn't celebrated enough. And the men have everything else. And they're kind of running everything right now. But the women we should conquer our victories. You know, it's not hugely popular for women to be in sports. So it's good that we've got something. It's good that we've got a team.
The day started in 1987 in remembrance of Flo Hyman, an Olympic volleyball player. It celebrated her achievements and her determination for gender equity within her sport. It's now evolved to celebrate all girls and women in sports and their achievements. Rugby has always been a male-dominated sport, but in recent years, women's rugby has been increasing in popularity. Last year, a new record was set when 66,000 people attended a women's rugby match at the 2024 Olympics.
Then these things kind of happen. You know, this year we've got the Rugby Women's World Cup, and I myself are going to go to a few games. You know, those things should be celebrated because, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't really, you know, we weren't selling out stadiums for women's sports, and now we are, and that kind of shows where we're at and how far we've come.
The love of the women's game is also evident at the university level. Fiona Hutchison is a physiotherapy student who plays flanker for University of Salford's Women's Rugby Union team.
Sports in general, girls playing rugby, obviously, it's a big men's sport at the moment, but I think it's really coming through. I was just teaching girls to kind of defend themselves in a way and be able to be aggressive and things like that.
Elena Towell, Quays News, Salford.
Thank you, Elena. And now we move over to the world of sport with our reporter, Elliot Royce.
He joins us live from the Salford Community Stadium with some updates.
Yes, thank you, Will. Yes, the Women's Rugby World Cup is coming right here to the Salford Community Stadium. That is right. Salford will be one of 8 stadiums host to the 2025 Women's Rugby Union World Cup starting the 22nd of August. The stadium will host 4 matches in the pool stage, the first taking place on the 23rd of August between Australia and Samoa. This will be the first time that the stadium has been host to a Rugby World Cup match since a 2013 men's league clash between Scotland and the USA. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for this one. Meanwhile, here in the Men's Rugby League, the future of the Salford Red Devils is still in question. Hopes of a takeover by an unnamed Australian group this weekend are becoming more and more thin. But the Salford Red Devils will be hoping that they can cut off the £800,000 budget cut and avoid the core sale of members of the squad. Manager Paul Rowley admits to losing some star players that he built a relationship with would be a punch in the head, which would be really hard to recover from. In men's football, the FA Cup 4th round action kicks off this weekend. Manchester City will be away at League One Leyton Orient. Meanwhile, Manchester United will kick off the FA Cup action tomorrow at 8 p.m. at home to Premier League strugglers Leicester City. Manchester United will be without Argentine defender, nicknamed the Butcher. Lisandro Martinez will be out for at least the rest of the season as he suffered an ACL injury against Crystal Palace at the weekend in that 2-0 defeat. And myself, I'll be down at Coventry on Saturday watching my beloved Ipswich Town in the 4th round. And in men's rugby union, England will be facing tough opposition in Six Nations in their second game against France. England opened their Six Nations campaign in a 27-22 defeat to Ireland. Meanwhile, the French demolished the Welsh 47-0 in their opening game. The Roses captain Maro Itoje stated that despite the loss, he was proud of the way the boys fought until the very end. The French were victorious the last 2 times that these teams faced off. Perhaps that's a fact that may upset some English patriots. And in cricket, Joe Root returns to England one-day cricket matches today with a game in a 3-part series against India. This will be his first one-day cricket match since the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and Ben Stokes has missed out on the trip to India due to injury. Will and Sophie, will you be watching any of these games?
Thank you, Elliot. Now, I do love a bit of sport, however, I can't say I'm a true cricket connoisseur.
Yeah, I've always been a bit more of a pod racing fan myself.
We'll have to explore that later. But for now, it's over to Alyssa for all things entertainment.
It's been a busy week of entertainment news, with the Grammys happening in the early hours of Monday. The highlight of the night was Kendrick Lamar winning 5 Grammys, one of them being the award for Record of the Year on his Drake diss track, Not Like Us. Beyoncé finally won Album of the Year in her 8th attempt, beating the pre-night favourites Charli XCX and Sabrina Carpenter. And in more controversial news, Kanye is sparking outrage and confusion as his wife Bianca Censori turned up to the Grammys in nothing but a completely see-through dress.
Thank you, Alyssa. And now it's time for the weather with Kira. What's it looking like for the rest of the day?
Thank you, Will. There will be plenty of wintry sunshine throughout the rest of the afternoon with no cloud around and temperatures of up to 8 degrees. Tonight will be dry and mainly clear, although some patches of low cloud and fog may develop in places overnight, with a top temperature of 3 degrees, so it's expected to remain rather chilly across Salford.
Thanks for that, Kira. I'll be trying to make the most of that sunshine for the afternoon, but for now, that brings us to the end of our show.
To keep up to date, you can find all of our stories at Quays News on social media. That's all for now. Goodbye.